Good morning, everybody, and welcome to my first episode of Got Space. It's a weekly Wednesday program that I'm creating now, which is just putting me on the schedule for every Wednesday instead of perhaps 10 weeks at a time every day. And today's episode is going to focus on the general topic that I focus on with all of my work, which is what exactly are you surrendering to? So it doesn't matter whether it's your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your body, distractions, patterns, any of these things, but what exactly is going on and how do you change it? So today is actually a particularly good day to do this because I set up my space and discovered that there's not only construction on one side of my house that's very loud, but on the other side. So I had to completely move everything because in my perfect world, right? In my perfect world, I would have had no distractions. But in my actual world, I had a bad hair day, I had problems with my dog, and I had construction on both sides. So this is particularly good day for me to be doing this because what exactly am I surrendering to? The thing I had to surrender to was the actual program, right? Not the perfection. So let's start at the beginning. What exactly are you surrendering to? What if you could surrender to higher intelligence? And so for the last 22 years, this is what I've been focusing on. What is there that we can tap into that we don't even know that we're a part of and that is there to inform us, that is much faster in knowing than we are as human beings and much more intelligent in how we might live if we tapped into it. So when I talk about higher intelligence, I'm talking about yours, because you are higher intelligence, you as an infinite being, and that of others. And when I say that of others, I don't mean just what we have around us in this world, but I mean anything that wants to come in and work with you. Okay, so what can come in to work with you can be something, maybe some other person in the world that has an idea that's similar to yours, and by working together, even though you don't know each other and you don't see each other and you may never meet each other, you multiply each other's power. Okay, so that's one form. But then there are what we call entities. Those can be an idea. Like, let's say there's a school that wants to come through me, right? Some information that wants to come in and change the world. If I thought that was all me, I would be woefully, minimally, limitedly powerful, right? But if I actually use what's there that's higher intelligence, I can do far more because it's the wind behind my sails and it's also the knowing when I step out of line. Okay, so what if by using your higher intelligence and the higher intelligence of what wants to work with you, you could not only have a life of more ease for you, more joy for you, more peace for you, more space. Okay, I call this Got Space for a reason, more space for you. But you could also perhaps change the way the world functioned. Okay? Now, if we look at the world right now, in many ways, it's very broken. I mean, shoot, I'm from the United States. Look at how broken we seem to be right now. We're mega confused, it seems, right? And pulled in many directions. But what if we moved from our higher intelligence, one person at a time, translating it to somebody else, or just changing themselves and making that accessible to somebody else? We can change the way the world functions. Now you might say, how could I be so powerful that by simply changing my own energy, my own choices, that I could affect others, particularly on a large scale? And I'm going to tell you this is true. Why do I know this? Because I've been a remote healer for 22 years and I did not have any clue I could do that. The only thing that I asked in a moment of absolute frustration of not wanting to be here anymore on this planet, even though I had some of the best jobs that everybody was looking for, I got every job I ever wanted, right? I have great degrees and went to wonderful schools that people like to go to, but they had nothing to do with what I was meant to do. And I sensed that frustration that we all often sense even especially when you get to midlife, that, God, what else is there that I'm missing? Why can't I be what I want to be? And what on earth is that? So it wasn't even that complicated. I didn't go into a lot of mental machinations. All I did was sense the frustration and say, because I was a change agent, and that meant that people got hurt, they lost jobs, etc. Or I fired myself and said, you don't need this job in your company anymore. You really don't need me. I'm on to the next thing. And I just said, I can't do this anymore. And I said, show me what I'm meant to do, or I was going to figure out how to evaporate. I wasn't suicidal. And 2 weeks later, someone was there as the plug-in, like plug me in, didn't know it was going to happen like that. And I was completely rewired by energy. I watched it happen and I was in awe, absolutely dumbstruck, meaning I couldn't make a sound as I watched what rewired me. And I'm like, my God, what's this? And from that moment on, my body started to transform. And then my teacher taught me how to listen to who I was and what had come to help me be that. So I tell you this because I was able, I was a curious scientist. I had a background in chemistry and physics and electrical engineering. I was a curious scientist. There are not all those, hey there, Christine, there are not all those that are exactly like I was, that just said, what can we do if we have this information? If I have this knowing, what can I do with this? And I learned that I could go into people's bodies around the world, or when people didn't even know I was doing it. And I'm not the healer where people say, oh, you have to ask permission. Their infinite being was talking to me, not their human being. And they were saying, fix this person. They have cancer. They have spinal injuries. They have whatever. And I would just do what I was moved to do. Hey there, Diane, that I was told to do, and it worked. All right. So from my science background, let me tell you, this is the way it works. And some of you might know all this. I'm not going to assume that you don't, right? You are all energy. All right. The science community knows that. That's the basis of physics. The metaphysical community knows that. The healers know that. The herbalists know that. Everybody knows that in a different way and is working with it in a different way and has different parameters as to what they think is true or not true. But the thing about being all energy, because your wavelengths, you look solid, but they're at the atomic, subatomic level. All that is a wavelength, right? You get a choice of what energy you want to be every moment of every day. And as energy, you are affected by energy, right? You are affected by the energy of other things. Now, how do we know this? The simplest way that I can explain that you know this, right, is by listening to music. Okay? So we all know that we might have a choice of a song or a music piece that is an energy you want to be more of in the moment. When I was a child, I was mopey sometimes, and I loved Chopin because Chopin was moody. And so I would play my piano and I would play Chopin and feel that mega moodiness of that music, and it enhanced that state of being so I could fully wallow in it, right? And when I went to college, I never played piano anymore. Why? Because the experience, the energy of playing piano for me was having glass windows with the baby grand piano there, staring out at the woods behind me, being in the mood of nature and the music and that beautiful instrument. And when I got to college, it was all about being in the basement with an upright piano and no windows and gray walls. That energy didn't work for me, right? So listening to or playing a song, you can enhance your own mood, and you also know you can change it, right? Because the moment a song comes on when you're feeling down and it's happy, right? It can affect you. You could say, no, I want to be sad, and you turn it off. Or you could say, no, I want to be happy, and you turn it on, right? Or you turn it up. Right? And then you start to groove with it. And as a wavelength of energy that is music, right, your wavelength tunes to it and it changes how you feel, right? So that is the simplest explanation I can give, besides the idea that you are all happy-go-lucky and you go to a party with somebody and there's icky energy in there and people are just really down or really complaining about life or whatever, and you're like, you look at your friend and you say, I don't want to be here. It makes me feel off, right? So it's trying to mess with your vibration, your harmonic, right? So the basis of being all energy is that you're a wavelength or a series of wavelengths, and that you are affected by other energies, other wavelengths. They add, they subtract, or they modify you, right? So everything adds, subtracts, or modifies you, right? So on an everyday basis, what affects our energy? Because this is what we surrender to. Just as I was talking about music, when you're surrendering to the music, you're surrendering to that vibration. Whatever you surrender to, that you are, right? Whatever you surrender to, and it's a choice. It may not be a conscious choice. You may be completely unaware that you are surrendering to things that you don't want to be or that you don't want to feel, right? So we surrender to our thoughts. We surrender to our points of view, our feelings, and our emotions. Those are very general and those are very personal, right? What do you follow? You might follow points of views. You might follow a guru. You might follow your friends on Facebook. You might follow the news. You might, whatever it is, a distraction, an addition, a subtraction, right? A point of view, you follow that. A feeling, a thought, emotion. But then we have the things that are a little deeper that we don't think about as much, as well as we might not think of those things, is that we have our beliefs and our culture, right? We surrender to them, we believe them, we act as them, even if we don't like it, right? And sometimes we fool ourselves that we do like something and we pretend not to, so that we're in conflict with ourselves and we feel that edginess of that energy of competing against the thing that we actually want to be. How many of us have ever lied to ourselves, right? I have, so one time I lied to myself long ago that being a mother was difficult and it took away from my work and everything. And so what I realized that was, even though my husband was the one after 18 and a half years who motivated having a child, right? He didn't want one. I wanted one in the beginning, and then I got used to just having clients. Those were my babies, right? That when I had one, I really wanted to be all in. But what I was cultured to do in my generation was women worked. Women worked and women contributed to society, and you had to have a regular job, and those jobs had status and money and mattered and all of that stuff, and it all got layered in my head. And when I had a child at 42, and by then I was a healer, but when I had a child at 42, I still lived by this, and I'm like, no, I would have competing parts of my life. It's like, I'm going to be a mother over here, and I'm going to work over here, and nothing really worked very well until I realized everything was my life, and that actually what I really, really loved was being a mother, and I was surrendering to the energy of something else, that it wasn't good enough or whatever. So we also surrender to our distractions. Now, we know that, that the moment that something other than what we really want to be doing, or let's say you're working on a piece, or you're going to publish it, or you're, if you clean the house, everybody would be happy. Or I'm not even in that realm right now, but that you're surrendering, that if you surrender to something, that the future would be better, but you let the distraction take you because it's the shiny object that you really want in the moment. So therefore, we're not surrendering to the future and what we really want, we're surrendering to the distraction. And the same is true for patterns and routines and habits. When you surrender to them and don't even know you are, like life has to be a certain way. Relationships fall in that so big time. They lose the adventure that they first had. When you first met somebody, you're like, oh, I like this person for this reason. And we do these fun things together. And it's maybe random and spontaneous. And then as time goes on, it gets codified and solidified. And then if you have kids, that's even more so. And then suddenly you have this routine and you feel dead, right? You feel dead because the adventure is gone and you've surrendered to something that you never loved, and then you called it a relationship, which is a third external thing. No, there's you and that person and how you intersect and what you do together. But as soon as you say the word relationship, you've suddenly divorced you from you, and you don't let them be them, and you create something completely different. So now you've surrendered yourself to a third entity energy that isn't even real, and isn't real because it has a form and structure that neither person wants, right? And then they get sad and depressed, and they have to face some issues, and maybe they get divorced, but they didn't really want to if they actually looked at things differently. So patterns and habits and routines are a form of belief, right? A form of belief that you believe those things need to be. So then there's what I love, which is the no-see-um world. And for those people who are highly sensitive, whether it's your body, your skin, your eyes, your intestinal tract, or whatever, or your emotions, or your fight or flight, those people who are highly sensitive, I suggest to you, you have more comfort in the realm of the no-see-ums, the entity world, than you could ever imagine, right? And you're trying to conform and fit into this world and what you can see. But actually, your ability to see when I say see, I mean know, feel, whatever, is way beyond what you could truly imagine in this world. And why do I say this? So that 22 years ago when that weird thing happened to me, there were no people there that were rewiring my system. There were no people there that were doing laser surgery on my ovaries. I literally sat on the bed and had to lie down because something held me down and did some excruciatingly painful work in a very specific area. And I knew if I surrendered to it, something was going to come for the better. Now, I say this because a lot of people talk about demons. Do you know, it's really true that there's only about 1% of what's out there that's that category. Most of it isn't at all. Most of it that people call demons are actually things, like if you could imagine a big bully, like let's say you feel a really edgy energy around you, you don't know what it is, and you're like, go away, go away. That edgy energy might be something that's actually trying to talk to you, but doesn't know how to get your attention otherwise. Think of a kid at school who is totally annoying and wants your attention and might be big, oafy person and have a loud voice, right? But inside they're a teddy bear. And when you get to know them, they're that teddy bear, but you saw them a different way. And so you ignored them for so long until you surrendered to who they really were, right? So I have lots of things that direct me. And I have so many things that tell me, okay, do this if I listen. So I'm not immune to being a human being, by the way. I say this because this is an ongoing process. Sometimes people say, oh, I took a class on that. And I'm like, yeah, you took a class on that, but did you get it? This is a practice. It is a practice of remembering, right? A practice of learning how to really hear and acknowledge what's bothering you. Some people love their depression. Some people love their problems. They are married to them. They are in relationship with those problems. And they have no idea how to get out. They don't even recognize that they're in relationship to them, right? How many people have continual problems that they can't get rid of? When you realize that you're in relationship with those problems, then you can change something because you don't have to have the relationship. You actually can leave it, right? So these if you're sensitive, right, you're affected by wavelengths around you. And they don't have to be just in your immediate vicinity, because we know from physics, time and space is something of this reality. But in the universe, it's very different. Like people say to me, how can you go into somebody's body across the world or across the phone or whatever it is and work in them? Well, I don't even think 2 seconds about it, because I just know that I'm there and I know how they respond and I know how people say it changes them, right? And oftentimes what I'm working with, what hired me, that's why I can do this, whether or not people have asked me to do it or not, is their infinite being, right? And that's one of the things I teach, is how to connect to your infinite being. It's super easy. I actually came across this teaching a yoga class, oh God, about 20 years ago or something like that. I was just like, hey, do this, do this, do this. And people were like, where'd you get that information? I don't know. Something told me to tell everybody to do this. It wasn't a training. It was definitely not a yoga training because there's, yoga has the limitations. Like a lot of times, let's say even in meditation and stuff, people say you got to ground. Well, I can tell you a lot of sensitive people don't need to ground. They need to find their infinite being first, because grounding will give you earth energy, but it still won't give you you. Okay, you still haven't surrendered to you because you don't even know you exist up there. So once you're a sensitive person and you learn that you can connect to your infinite being, right? You're like, oh, wow. What was I doing, right? What was I doing all that time? And then you don't go feel guilty and bad about it and all this wasted time. You just move on. That's another thing. People go backwards and feel guilty and all this is sort of wasted emotion, right? They feel bad about themselves. Okay, would an infinite being feel bad about itself? No, it would just move on to the next thing. In fact, an infinite being probably wouldn't make those choices that you made, but that's okay. You're a human being. So that... how we know we're not being our infinite being, for example, is that we shrink away from the things that we really want to do. Whether we feel tense in our body, look tense in our body, look weak in our body, that we feel edgy. What do we know? The moment you're doing those things, you know that you're shrinking away from your infinite being. You might also be shrinking away from external being. Yeah, okay, Vicky, yeah. So as Vicky says, that's exactly what I feel, what I sense during yoga. Yeah. So when you're doing that, everybody has a different channel in, right? It's just that our trainings, and I went to a 2-year training, our trainings sometimes don't tell us about this. It's that you might have the capacity for it, but the training isn't telling you about that. What it is the training gave you a tool that then allowed you to access something higher. Don't forget, you might be more powerful than the trainings that are out there. They are often just our stepping stools for who we are, right? That's why I don't want to ever create a certification program or anything like that. I just want to empower everybody else to use tools that will help them and also help facilitate them. People say, how'd you get what you got? I worked for years with people facilitating me, really, really unknown people, really, really unknown people. They would be hard to find, right? But they were the real deal. They taught me how to know the truth. And doesn't mean that known people don't, but sometimes they get caught up in the business of what they're doing and it becomes harder for them. All of us would suffer from that. So I want to go back to the idea of entities. So when you're sensitive, and a lot of people are, you have the capacity to sense entities. And the reason why this is so important, because I believe that entities are here to help solve our issues, right? We're just not listening to them. This world is full with so many issues and we can only start one person at a time. And the moment that you change who you are, right, there could be a person connected all the way across the world that will shift as well. You will either connect through past lives, some kind of bond you never knew that you had, any of those kinds of things. You could have been a twin soul or whatever, but you don't even know each other in this life. And so that when you change, they change. Now that's true for things that are not here as well, because there's a ton of entities that are not here, right, that want your help. People get blown away when I'm working with someone and I'll say, how many entities are here right now? And they're like, I don't know. I say, truth, how many entities are here right now? I'm like, I don't know, 10 or 4. I said, well, I got about 100 million. And they looked at me and they go, well, how'd you get so many? I said, well, if you got a smaller number, that might be what's come to work with you. But because you're coming to work with me, 100 million others came because they have the same issue and they know that us doing the work is going to change all of them. This is the wild thing about entities, because they can transform time and they can move in time and space the way we don't, right? So if we want to change not just the world, but the universe, right? Because don't forget, some of the no-see-ums, some of the entities are going to be coming inside a body and have a life. That's why the conversation I had last week was the gift of death. And are you a facilitator of death is so important, because if you're a facilitator of death, you need to know that things will come in this world, right? They will be coming in this world. And if you can clear them, help them, heal them of all kinds of things, just by some of what you know, you will create a better space here for the future, right? What if your job is not only to change the way you are in this world and find the contribution that you truly are, even if that contribution is tying people's shoelaces every morning at preschool? I don't care what your contribution is, because there's a delivery. Somebody's going to be able to receive something. And once we turn on our receiving from everything, from each other, from rocks, from trees, from plants, from entities, from our infinite being, from the universe, once we turn that on, then we give the capacity for others to receive and turn on as well, right? So what if instead of being a human being and just trying to be aware of that you have surrendering to your thoughts or your feelings or other feelings, or your emotions or other emotions, or your distractions or other distractions, or your beliefs or cultures or points of view or anyone else's, right? What if you just surrendered to your infinite being first, right? The moment you surrender to the infinite is the moment you have the connection to everything else that's infinite. And this is what I have learned hands down. When I try to connect, so it's very easy for me if you came for a private session or an online session, I immediately connect. But in my daily life, let's just say in my daily life, when I have frustrations, like here I am going to record this, right? And immediately just before recording it, they're pouring rocks next door and sawing everything else next door. And my dog was having problems. And if I surrendered to all of that, it's like I would be discombobulated. I would feel I wasn't going to do a good job. If I surrendered to my bad hair day, my glasses falling off, or however I look, I would never come here with the confidence that I come here to tell you what I know. I would be distracted by all of this other stuff. So when you surrender to your infinite being, you can't be. So in my daily life, when I notice that I'm off, I try to remember, am I connected to my infinite being? It lies 12 to 18 inches above your head. And you can go there right away when you're connected to it. But when you are not connected to it, you can feel the layers of stuff in the way. You're like, oh shit, I really wasn't connected, was I? I really wasn't, or I really am not, because you're doing it at the moment, hopefully. I really am not functioning to my highest potential of contribution to me in this world, right? And so everything that wants to come through you and create here comes through your infinite being, right? Otherwise, you're just a human being reacting in the world. Let me say that again. Everything that wants to come here and create here is coming through you, through your infinite being, because you're being it, right? It's a creation of the world. And otherwise, you're a human being responding from the limited ways a human being is. And why do we feel off or edgy or not quite ourselves or anything like that? Hold on one second. Is because I should really take the time. I keep saying I'm going to, but I haven't done it. Is that imagine a box, right? And in that box is your infinite being in this world. And the edges of the box are your thoughts and your feelings, your emotions, your points of view, your distractions, your patterns, your habits, your relationship, the way you set it up, or all of this kind of stuff. Your routines, right? And you've got this box, and the more you put, it's an inverse relationship. The more you put any, points of view on it, or distractions or patterns or routines, the more that box shrinks. Now, the infinite being is inside that box, right? And now it can't function as much. The less space you give something, the less it can function. It's kind of like if you're very contracted in your physical body, right? There's very little metabolism. There's very little fluid flow. There's very little energy flow because it's constricted. And when you function from that constriction, you're limited, right? And you could be in pain And it could make you edgy or all of that. So knowing where your infinite being is and learning how to connect to it immediately and erase the crowds. I drop all my points of view. By the way, clearings and stuff like that, you can get hooked up on them, right? And you then require them. I only asked the universe when it gave me my gift. I said, show me the simplest way to do all of this, right? And a lot of times we learn something because it gives us the moment to feel it, right? But then I always ask, what if it's simpler than that? Because what if clearings end up being a lot of words to you and it just doesn't work as well for you? Or because you said the clearings, now you just even imagine what it was that the clearing had to say, right? Or was trying to do, and you don't need to use it. Now, I'm going to give you an example of why this is true, right? So when I first started as an energy person, the person who turned my energy on, he said, you have a capacity with rocks. He didn't use that word, but I'm using it. He said, you're a rock healer and you don't even know it. And he showed me a little bit about rocks and healing. And it was like, wow, I really knew what to do with people. I would lay them out and I knew what to do. And he said, but I'm going to tell you something. From day one, he said, I'm going to tell you something. He said, don't read a book for 3 years, and except for what I ask you to read, passages or whatever, and I will teach you. And he did. He taught me for free, and I gave him money as I could. And because he said, you have something that needs to come in and it needs to spread like a virus. He said, it's like a good virus. You need to spread this. So that was his gift, and we turn these on in people over time. We give people gifts, right? So he gave me this amazing gift. And so I followed him truly because I surrendered to the universe. I surrendered to what wanted to come through me. And he said, look, here's a red jasper. If you look it up, it'll say it'll heal your third chakra. Now, I want you to run it in front of me and tell me where it stops. Stopped at his third eye, let's say. And then I want you to run it on you and tell you where it stops. It started at my heart, right? He said, so neither of those are your third chakra. So don't believe it. What you are is you're working with the energy of how that stone, everything's a wavelength, right? A stone is a set of molecules in a certain pattern, right? But they're all vibrating as wavelengths. This is 100% true in science, right? And so that wavelength in my heart was going to be affected by the wavelength of the stone, and it was going to change to be more open and free, right? So we would do this work, and he said, if you read a book and it tells you that, you will be stuck as that is the information, right? But once you use all these rocks, after a while, you're not going to need them because you're going to have the energy of them in your hands. And it was hands down true. So I'm saying this true as well with the ideas of whatever mantras you say or whatever clearings you do or whatever, habit that you have with changing your own energy or making something great. Don't forget, after a while, you may not need this anymore. And what you're doing is you're using all your time and limiting yourself by needing all of this stuff. What if you were way more powerful and that was just your stepping stone? It helped you shed whatever it helped you shed at the time, or it helped you get powerful in a way or sense something that you never sensed before, and now you had a capacity that was greater than you ever had before. I feel like I'm on speed. That's what happens sometimes when they're talking through me, and I don't have just me, not my infinity. I have like a team. Whole team that talks. And in fact, your teams might be talking through me for you, right? So lost my train of thought. So we were talking about, just being able, those things could be a stepping stone for you. And now things are much more rapid for me. I used to have all these channels where things would come in and help me. Now I just have a complete petri dish on the top of my head. Once I'm connected to my infinite being, then I get access to all the universe. That literally happened one day. It was a process. And then I'm going to realize I don't need all those things. What if I just connect? And I saw how it happened. I want to teach everybody that. That's absolutely, really hands down effing amazing. So, knowing where your infinite being is, connecting to it, learning how to clear what's in there is really important. And when it's your infinite being that connects to the entire universe, the human being trying to connect to the infinite doesn't work as well. Just as well as the human being trying to connect to the earth is limited, the infinite being connecting to the earth is much stronger, right? So what if you could connect to your higher intelligence, to also infinite, like, so your higher intelligence has connection to the infinite and all-knowing, right? And this, hey there, Leonie, thanks for joining me. This is absolutely phenomenal, because once you realize this, we'll go in and out of functioning as this, to be clear, we'll go in and out as functioning as this, but knowing that you can do that is a gift that can save you when you suddenly need it and you've forgotten, right? So part of it is surrendering. So this whole thing is, what on earth are you surrendering to? Are you surrendering to being a human being and figuring everything out as a human being? Or are you surrendering to the possibility that your infinite being, or not even the possibility, you told me it's just true, that your infinite being is all-knowing and you have access to much more, right? So when I surrendered to the infinite, because I literally, what was coming through me, I remember my husband was in Lao at the time, and I was in this yoga teacher training, and I was lying on my bed and I was having this conversation. It was like a resistance with all the 12 things that work with me. And I said, look, if I surrender, they said, there'll be enough. Because they were thinking I was worried about money, right? Because that was obviously, they knew that's what I was worrying about, because I had gone from lucrative careers to nothing, didn't know how to do it, had to, I was disparaged to by my teacher. So a really famous yoga teacher said in class one day when we were there, he said, some people think they're intelligent. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. And everybody, that was my friend or wanted to afterwards, came up after class and said, that was about you. Because I would make these comments thinking that these people had the same power that I did, because I thought my teachers had the understanding of the other world. And many people don't, or didn't. Maybe it's different now. Many people didn't, let's just say it, and still don't. They have an intellectual idea because they read about it or they heard about it, but they don't have the way to get there. So to be sure, this is a journey, right? And I'll say that because, yeah, sure, I don't always function well in my relationship. Sometimes I'm an asshole, and sometimes I'm a helpful person. And, I don't always function greatly as a parent, but I more function that way now than ever before, right? Because it's a process. Once I surrendered to knowing as a healer, that was easy, because that was just about me, right? That wasn't about interacting in the world. That was about having a gift and feeling it and doing something with it, right? Whereas the moment you interact with somebody else, and of course, I am interacting with clients, but they're coming for the gift, right? But the moment you interact with people who are functioning in the human being world, you can tune yourself to that wavelength unless you knowingly stay higher up there. And so it is a practice. It's a practice. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen from a few classes. Any of my students who worked with me for a long time will tell you that. In fact, one of them on here is one of my longest standing students in this type of work. And when I say that, I mean someone who comes regularly, because you kind of get it for a while and then you forget some stuff, right? So if we stay aware and we can connect to this, what can we create in this world? To me, it's about changing the way this world functions, right? Connecting to your higher intelligence, to your infinite being, and all that's out there is about changing the way this world functions, especially because we are all energy and we affect other people, right? What if other people want to connect to this as well, but they just don't know, and they require you to do it first, right? There's a chain reaction. Just like my teacher said, spreading it as a virus. It's a good virus. What you know, you need to spread. So no one has asked a question here, and you're always welcome to. I forgot to say that. No one's asked a question here. You're welcome to ask a question. And I want to create another, so I did this in the fall. What exactly are you surrendering to was a 6 to 10 week series for some people who wanted to go into it deeper with me. So I want to do that here. I just haven't set it up, but I think I'll do a 6-week series. And then I'll do these weekly ones, which are obviously not personal. They're information. But if anybody has a question and wants to ask, you can. So I'll wait a second because I know there's a delay, and if there's not, I'll end. But this is my life's work. This is why I'm here. I'm meant to nurture this in people. One of my greatest things I love to do is nurture people, because nurturing them, nourishing them, nurturing them, whatever you want to call, as a teacher, as a class teacher, as a private teacher, as a cook, as all of those things, as a parent, whatever, is changing someone's reality, right? Changing their wavelength, because we all want to be nourished. It's the food that we feed ourselves is energy, whether they're your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your beliefs, what you adhere to, your expectations, your projections, and how much we separate from our infinite being is truly, truly amazing, because a lot of times we don't even know how to connect. We know that we're separating from, we know that we feel icky. We're lying to ourselves about what we would really rather be doing, or what we are doing is what we love. Sometimes we're lying to ourselves. It might not be so important as that. It might be lying to yourself about where you want to go on vacation, particularly if you're trying to do it with somebody. Okay. Kathy says, not exactly sure how to ask here. I'll just start here. Will the class open me up to my gifts? How to connect and present? Okay, so if you're talking about a class, like a 6-week class, this is not a class, this is like a radio show program, right? This is a discussion. Sure, yeah, the class is all about that, and it's all about whatever shows up for people. I mean, like, for example, the class that I went through this fall, What Exactly Are You Surrendering To, was kind of more and more eye-opening over time. And I just started teaching people remote healing, and they started to want to know more about the energy world that's beyond us, how to sense it, how to move with it, and how to do remote healing. So that's the aftermath for them, because they went through this process. And yes, opening up to your gifts. I mean, it will be what you ask for, right? What exactly am I surrendering to is, if you say, what exactly am I surrendering to? What is not me that I'm surrendering to? And it doesn't mean you have to get divorced, change your life, or any of that stuff. It does not mean that. It might mean that you want to do that, but let's just assume it doesn't mean that, right? It means that what am I not being because I'm surrendering to something else that maybe I'm hiding from myself? Because most of the time we are completely unconscious of what we're doing. We're unaware, unconscious. It's not in the forefront of our brain, but it is definitely, our body is our greatest barometer of what's going on. We're an infinite being that chose to come in a human form and have an experience here, or contribute here, or whatever it is. And this here tells you so much. And what's interesting is I come here to tell you this stuff, but for many years I had different tracks in my life. So there was the energy track. There was the yoga teacher alignment track. There was the body rolling instructor alignment track. There's the reflexology track. There's all this stuff that had to do about everything was the same, except for I was teaching them in different tracks. And then I'm like, those people who actually go through all the tracks with me, it's basically about opening up all of your sensory perception of your body, right? That is what the tool that your infinite being uses to tell you whether you're doing what it wants or not, right? So, I mean, obviously the body is for many other things, but if you look at my Instagram stream, perhaps, I think it shows up on my Facebook, I'm often talking about what my body wanted me to make today, right? Because I listened to my body, right? I don't, like, people talk about weight, and I said, before you go eating something, ask yourself, am I eating for me? Or am I eating for something else? That's where, when you're very sensitive, right, you're going to sense that you're doing something for something else, another person, another being, another energy of some kind. And you're like, oh crap, I'm doing that. So yes, and no doubt, like if you're surrendering to doubt, I doubt I can do this. Or I'll try as a way of not doing something. I'm not going to be the word police after a while, but definitely if I hear someone saying, I'll try, I'll know they'll never do it, because I hear people who are going to try all the time and they really never do it at all. Whoops, sorry, people texting me. So I know because over time they still never make the choice, right? So try. You might even ask, do you even want what you just asked for? Truth, do you even want what you just asked for, right? Because you'd be surprised. And if you don't know, there's a way for that your body will show you a yes or a no. And I've been using that since the beginning as a healer. Yes, you'll see it in different trainings that you go to. It's used in kinesiology. It's just bottom line, the way my body communicates with me. Once somebody presented it to me, it was very obvious. Don't even have to, be quiet too much to do that. So, some people think, let's say, Kathy, you think you have gifts, and like some people think they have a gift, or they desire to have a gift, so they get trained in it. That may not be their gift at all, right? Other people are aware of their gift, but like they can never kind of get where they want to go, right? So what are you creating, or what are you succumbing to? And how many, we go way back into past lives and stuff, because these classes are in pods of people, and they're chosen by, time and location, but they're also chosen by who goes well together. The universe will tell me that. So you might have a gift that you feel is knocking on your door, but you don't even know what it is, right? And so we can talk about what is knocking on your door. What is knocking on your door? What's trying to wake you up? What is, infinitely there that's kind of, giving you the elbow that you just don't even know where to go with that. So, but truly it's about surrender. And surrender happens with your whole body and being. It happens with and you might surrender for a minute and close up again, but surrender happens with your whole body and being. I talk a lot about how to energetically open up a lot of your cells, how to receive, right? To have a gift, you actually have to receive it, right? You have to receive. There's so much intelligence that you can receive from oh, hi Diane, I'll get there in a second. There's so much intelligence that you can receive from inanimate objects that you might be surprised at, but it is nonverbal. Most energy that you will receive is a knowing that's nonverbal. So Diane wants to talk about how to connect to the infinite being, the higher self. Yes. So in brief, somewhere above your head, and you can make your finger way up high and then come down, you'll probably feel a place where it stops. Like there's a zing, it kind of like a magnet there, and it doesn't want you to go lower, doesn't want you to go higher. It's right there. And that's your higher self. And if you connect to it, you might have trouble connecting. And then you need to know you have to get rid of layers of things. And that is probably something right there in the beginning of the class that I would talk about too, because if people didn't know that would be important. But if you have access to that, just put your finger up there and go there. Go up there. And when you go up there and you connect and you can relax your whole body, you might feel like right now when I do it, I feel more of my heart, right? Because I'm in love with what I do. Right? I could do it till I die, till the cows come home. People talk about retirement. I don't even know what they're talking about. Retirement is for people who don't want to be doing what they're doing anymore or do anything else. Or maybe retirement is the wrong word. Change. When are you going to change what you're doing, So now, if you did that and you connect to your higher being, if you can, I'm not saying everybody can. So if you can't, then you need some help, right? And a lot of times what I do is I go right into your energy space and we talk about what I see, or I just change it. Okay, so now you're there. And you just feel what it might be doing to your body. Maybe it has some tingling on your arms or in your chest or anywhere, right? It could be your eye, it could be your toe. And whatever it wants to change, your infinite being will want to change the wavelength of what you are so that you can receive more of it, right? So if you have a lot of insecurities or doubt or, I don't know, just things in your way, like you're a really good girl or a good boy, you did what everybody said, whatever the track was that everybody said you needed to do, or maybe you were just a fighter and you just fought everything, and in fact you fought your infinite being. Ooh, something feels weird about that. So let me stop for a minute. What's talking to me? Okay, they said there's 100 people that are fighting and have fought who they really are. But, you know, I don't know what in this group means, meaning people who might listen to this, who really, really, hey there, Suzanne, who really want to know how to be them. And some people, when you've been a different way for so long, it's a real phase shift. That's a science term, but it's a real phase shift, and it can feel very different for you, and how you identified yourself might really change. And you could, Diane says she totally gets that. I don't know what part she totally got, because this is on delay, you know, when they give the messages. But somebody could really suddenly become a different person. Let's just say this. Let's just say there was a nasty person. I know people with not just PTSD, but borderline personality disorder. Okay, borderline personality disorder supposedly has no cure. What I see from the people that I've known is they are so sensitive and powerful to energies that entities are everywhere, and they're confused. And they're reacting because they're in resistance to it, because some of them don't even believe this. And so they act out this anger and frustration because maybe that's their default mechanism. We have different, you know, like someone's might be mopey, not feeling like your true self. Yeah, okay, so this is what this is about. What exactly are you surrendering to is about what are you doing and being that's not you? Not just that's not powerful you, but might be if you're here, but you're acting over here, or you're here and you're acting over here, or whatever, you're not even in the same plane. You don't even know who you are. And this is so many people. I believe there are so many highly sensitive people that feel emotionally disturbed to some degree, or like there's something wrong with them, when in fact there's nothing wrong with them. It's that they just don't have this information. And this is why I had to create something public. I had to start talking about it because, you know what? How much more suffering, and like if more and more powerful people are coming into the world because the world needs it, and yet the human reality, the way we put it together, doesn't allow us to see it. I have to do what I know to show people, or else I'm not doing my contribution. You know, why else would I have done all of this? Because literally I could have just gone on a beach and talked to the earth. I do a lot of earth work and nature work and animal work and stuff just on my own, or just energy work. And I wouldn't have to be out here in public, but somehow I'm a public teacher, right? So what is it that you are, you know, you can also do this privately. You wouldn't even have to do it in a class that I suggested. But this class is really great because the class allows you to see what others are doing, and we get a contribution from each other by learning for each other. So, yeah, I'm glad we aligned too. Actually, we don't align. I never align with you, Kathy, but I'm glad we met and that we have the connection and we can create the contribution. Because don't forget, people coming to do this work with me contributes to me as well, because then I can transform what I know or how I teach or whatever. So here's a little tidbit that you can do. So you wake up in the morning. So I have sort of a bubble map that I had with some of my classes. You wake up in the morning, and what is the first thing that you surrender to? Oh, my legs hurt. I don't want to get up. I'm tired. Would someone please bring me a coffee? Oh my God, I have to do all of this today. Oh, geez, I wish I could just walk out the door and not have to feed the animals and walk the dog. Or whatever it is, whatever thing that you're surrendering to, can you relax your whole body and let it go? And you can ask, is this even me? And if it's not you, you're surrendering to somebody else's, and you don't have to wrap it in awareness and return to center. Just change the vibration. If you literally change the vibration, it doesn't matter if you're connected to that person, they'll get it anyway. Change the vibration. You can do whatever you like. If you like, wrap it in awareness and return to center, fine. But that got too complicated all the time for me. So I would just change the vibration. I would drop it. It's like watching an iceberg and a piece falls off, right? Yes, I want to keep all the, glaciers that we have. I don't want icebergs melting, but a piece falls off and then it's not you, and you're like, because my whole work is about got space. Infinite beings are infinite space, and in the space, this is science, in all the space is the energy and the consciousness, right? The more space you have, the more your energy is free and your consciousness is full, right? Freedom is about having that. So anyway, I gather no one has any more questions, but think about it. Try connecting to your infinite being, the way I said, and try waking up every morning and see exactly what you're surrendering to. And then 5 minutes later, see what else you surrender to. And again, and you might start cracking up. How many things, how many thoughts, points of view, whatever, I have to do this. Well, what if I didn't? All these routines, whatever. What if you didn't have to surrender to any of it? What if you could surrender to something different? And then you don't have to go necessarily looking for it. Surrender to your infinite being instead. Okay, I hope this helped whoever listened to it. And I am going to download this when it goes up into Facebook. I will download it and I will put it in YouTube. I'm going to create we call it a channel, but it's really a playlist of all these Got Space programs that I'm going to put up. So if you're, hi Tara. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Kathy. So you surrendered to tuning into this because you could have been doing something else, right? And pass it on. Pass it on to other people because that's the greatest gift we can do, is to pass on something that helps us to someone who maybe wants it. Or you just post it and say, hey, listen to this. Because everything I post is public, if you haven't noticed. If there's somehow something that says friends only in Facebook, it's a mistake usually. So there's a whole component of this for teens, by the way. What exactly are they surrendering to that's not them, that makes them feel so uncomfortable? And how can we empower the younger generation to have more confidence and be more themselves and not be reactive to each other? Yeah. So thank you, Tara. Okay, so when I know where this is going to be in YouTube, because I know that many of you have friends or yourself who don't actually tune into Facebook, but would get this on YouTube more easily, then I'll let you know. And ultimately, I'm having an email about these to alert people that they came on and that this is where they are and this was this week's subject or whatever. All right, have a nice day.